សួស្តីអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នា Welcome to Khmer Voices, where we shine a spotlight on the achievements of the Khmer diaspora around the world. I'm your host, Wanni, aka Vanny.
You may notice my voice sounds a bit different today. I'm feeling under the weather, but I want to make sure I get this episode out on time for you all. I'm proud this podcast interests a growing number of people. Akun Tran netទាំងអស់គ្នា for listening. I am full of gratitude. Today, I speak with my youngest guest so far on the show, Mitchell Gao from Seattle, Washington. I interviewed him back in December 2024, so you'll notice that I referenced Gao's Saw story, The Cambodian Can Collector, since it wasn't published at the time I was talking to Mitchell. My conversation with Mitchell offers a look into the life of someone who's in his late 20s, so second generation. My previous guests would have fallen into the 1.5 category, being in their 40s and 50s. Now, Mitchell also offers a perspective from someone who was born and raised in the U.S., in a neighborhood where he didn't belong to any community. Mitchell was a lonely child. We talked about how he navigated this, why he studied biology in university, his time in the military, and how he ended up in Seattle as a software engineer, and ultimately finding community there, which in part is his book club, the Seattle Chinatown Book Club. I enjoyed talking to someone still in their 20s, and I very much appreciated learning about how he wants to make more of an impact, doing so already having created Seattle Chinatown Book Club. I hope you enjoy getting to know Mitchell as much as I did.
Hi, Mitchell. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on so early in the morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. I love that you're doing this, and I would have done this anytime, any place, any day. For sure.
You're not too far away from me, actually. So I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and you are in Seattle.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. So I know that you're so into books, and you founded a book club in the Seattle area. If you were to write a memoir, what would the back of the book say about you? You know, the author's bio?
I think the highlights of my life that I want people to know about my bio is that I did come from a very low income area where having access to education and books was very hard. And so I would like it to say, Khmer American, born and raised in Houston, Texas, made his way to an educational background where he had access to literature and books, and he found his way through those types of medium. And I do think that's how a lot of my life was shaped. It was through books, honestly, and seeking knowledge and wanting to be educated. And I think I would want that to be the back of my biography. I think that's a very important part of my life.
So you mentioned limited access to education. What do you mean about that? Do you mean like in terms of financial resources, or just not having people?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, and I think having a limited access to resources via financial means was a big one for us. My family couldn't afford things like SAT prep, tutors, after school activities, because I do think extracurriculars are also very educational and shape a child, right?
Mhm.
It's not just like going to school with textbooks and what have you. It's interacting with the world beyond that. And I think education, those mediums were something I didn't have access to, along with, like, I think you're going to say people that could educate me as well.
Right.
Even the school I went to, it was I think it was fine, but ultimately I was limited by how much my family could provide, which is not a bad thing on their part at all. We all have our struggles, we all have our journeys, but especially for my family, we had a difficult time finding the necessary resources for me to succeed.
Tell us about your upbringing. You were born and raised in Texas, and then now you're in Washington. Give us a summary of how you ended up in Washington.
Yeah, of course. So, born and raised in Houston, Texas, in a neighborhood called Greenspoint. I spent, let's see, 18 years in Houston, obviously, and then I went to college at UT Austin. And once I graduated around 2019, I enlisted in the United States Army to become a paratrooper because I needed something to kind of like discipline me, I guess. I was very not put together, for lack of a better word, And after that, the military gave me the necessary skills to enter the civilian sector for a different career than what I was studying for in college. I was a biology major, and I ended up in technology as a software engineer. And so in the military, I'd been stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington, about an hour south of Seattle. And once I had gone out, I took my skills to Seattle, applied to be a software engineer, and now I'm here as a full time resident. I love it here.
Do you work in the field now?
I do, yes. I'm a software developer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I connected with you on Instagram because of your love for books, because I love books as well. So, yeah, I was just curious, is that your part-time job working at the bookstore?
I would say it's a part-time job. Part-time me just coming to the bookstore and the owner being like, "Hey, can you watch this real quick while I leave?"
Okay, so you're not
No, I have a very good friendship
you're
with
not
them, yeah.
actually like an employee. You're there as sort of like a friend? How does it
That's a
work?
good question. I wish Soka, the owner, was here to answer these questions with me because I don't know what he would say.
Uh-huh.
I would say I'm pretty much an honorary
Okay.
employee, I guess. He doesn't pay me regularly, but I do also, quote unquote, would do work at the bookstore that you would consider as an employee. I don't it's a very funny situation, but Soka is a very dear friend of mine and employee, friend, whatever it is. I spend a lot of time at mom's bookstore. It's my second home,
Mm.
so yeah.
Let's go back to your upbringing because I want to get a full picture of you mentioned that you had limited resources in terms of finances and access to people that would help you propel your career in whatever it is that you chose to do. Did you live in an Asian neighborhood, Cambodian neighborhood? Like, give me a picture.
Mm.
Give me an intro to your memoir here.
So, Greens Point in the area I lived was a predominantly Mexican
Mm,
neighborhood. So a lot of the people I grew up around were Mexican or of Latino descent. And so a lot of my cultural reference actually is around Mexican culture. I always joke that I learned Spanish before I learned Khmer, honestly. And I didn't really get to engage with Cambodian culture that heavily until I got to college, and it was more on my radar. I think obviously my parents went out their way to take me to Cambodian slash Khmer cultural
mhm.
gatherings, like the Temple for Khmer New Year, for example, family gatherings and what have you. But I do think that my upbringing personally, like a lot of my cultural references are outside of Cambodian culture.
So, in terms of one you wanted to discover more about Cambodian culture, what was the event that brought you there?
Hmm. Such a good question. I'm trying to think of the one time where something clicked in my head. I think it honestly would have had to have been in 2020 when I had just graduated from UT Austin and I had read Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong. And it was that book specifically that made me more introspective about my Asian American identity and the politics that surround it. And I think from there, I had gone more inquisitive about what it means to be a Khmer American in the Asian American diaspora because I feel like that's also a niche in
Mhm.
itself. And so yeah, I think yeah, bringing it back to books, it really was that one book that kind of like brought it all together for me and kind of like made something click in my head to really consider what it means to be an Asian American and what it means to be a Khmer American on top of that.
Mhm. Did your parents expect you to go to college, or were they sort of like, "You do you"?
They definitely wanted me to go to college. That was never a question. It was absolutely I had to go to college.
And I'm assuming your parents left Cambodia as a result of the Khmer Rouge? Okay. And when
Correct.
did
Yeah,
they
that's
arrive?
why they came. If I remember the story correctly, my father came before my mother, so he probably would have came in the 80s, and my mother, I think, came in the later 80s.
Mhm.
So yeah, my father came in the early 80s, my mother came in the later 80s, if I remember the story correctly.
Okay, and were they working a lot?
Let's see. So yes, absolutely. My father was in France as a refugee for a bit, and then they got placed in Houston,
Mhm.
Texas. And he was actually my mother's immigration lawyer that when she was coming, yeah, she when she was coming to the United
Uh-huh.
States. And that's such a good question. I need to ask my parents that, like, how much were they working out here? But I can imagine they would,
Uh-huh.
right? Like that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah. How old were they when they arrived in the US?
My father was a late teenager,
Uh-huh.
and I think my mother was in her
Mm.
20s.
I think you're the youngest, guest I've had on the podcast. Are you in your 20s still?
Yes, I am 28 years old.
Okay. Interesting to hear your story because obviously I know I have friends of the diaspora my age, and their stories are very reminiscent of mine. And it is interesting to hear your story because you're about a decade younger than I am. Yeah. So why biology?
I wanted to be a
Mhm.
doctor, honestly. Yeah, I genuinely wanted to be a doctor, and biology was one of the pre-med tracks they could take in undergraduate. And so that was on my mind when I was completing my degree. It was going to med school,
Mm.
but obviously that didn't work out.
Is what made you change your mind? You just wanted something faster or what was it?
Yeah, that's part of the equation. So I knew that my family needed financial support,
Mhm.
and I kind of was in a rush to get that going. In my head at the time, right, I didn't think I could afford to go through med school for another however long because I needed to start supporting my family financially. Which is just the reality of it. It's not that I don't think med school students can make money, but it's kind of a delay, right?
Mhm.
Like you go to med school and then you start making your money as a doctor and what have you. But at the time, I had this idea that was like, oh, I don't really have time to do that. I need to like start making money now to
Mhm.
support my mom and dad.
So what made you go into software engineering?
There's like a multitude of factors into that decision. One being in the military, I did work as a tech person in the military, so naturally, that just kind of happened to transition to I think a lot of programming and software engineering is logic based and being able to make decisions that are very logical. And I think I'm just really good at that. Like throughout my life, I think I've always questioned a lot of things and wondered why things happened
Mhm.
and what happened when you did certain things. And I think that was a natural transition for programming because a lot of it is quite literally that wondering why something happens and making logical decisions to get to that solution endpoint. And yeah, I think all of those factors compounded with the fact that I'm in Seattle and that's just like a tech hub that kind of like naturally guided me towards this profession. And so, yeah, I'm very happy with it. I love being a software engineer. I think it was a very good fit for me.
Nice, nice. I was creeping your Instagram and I noticed that you rode your bike from Texas to Alaska. Tell us about that. And then I looked at your
Yeah,
resume.
so
It looked like you trained a bunch of people to do that too. That's a pretty cool experience.
yeah, so at UT Austin there's a organization called Texas 4000. It's a nonprofit organization where around 80 students from UT Austin or so will bicycle from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska as a charity bike ride for for cancer research, cancer patients, and things of that nature. We're all fundraising in some kind of capacity for the fight against cancer, for lack of a better word. And so yeah, I did that my senior year of college. It takes about a year and a half process of onboarding, training, and what have you. And on my last summer, my graduation summer, we had taken 70 days to cycle from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. I think collectively we raised around $500,000, I think, to donate. So
Very
yeah, I
cool.
think that was definitely a very life changing experience for me
How
too.
long was the
And
trip? How long did it
it
take
was
you?
70
Oh, 70
days.
days. Okay, so you
Yeah,
mentioned that.
yeah, 70 days. Yeah, yeah. It was
Where did you where did you guys all sleep in hotel rooms?
sometimes. So yeah, during that year and a half long process leading up to the bike
Uh,
ride, we had a committee that would reach out to different cities that we knew we were going to travel through.
mhm.
And it was basically just hitting up YMCA's, churches, any connections with families because this has been an organization for about 20 years, so there's like a history to it. And yeah, it was basically people's backyards, people's guest rooms, hotel rooms, like you said. It was like a multitude of things. We also once slept in a bowling alley. That was fun. Yeah, I know some people slept in rock climbing gyms. People were sleeping at water parks. That was really fun too. But yeah, no, it was basically anywhere where people were hospitable enough to host us for a night, and it was really fun. It was super
Did
fun.
you do anything like that before?
Oh no, I was not a cyclist by any means leading up to that. Yeah, all my athleticism came from, sports like wrestling, boxing, MMA. I was really into that.
Uh-huh.
And maybe running, I guess, because I was a part of all the sports, but I had never cycled like that until I became a part of that program. So
Mhm.
that was yeah, that was definitely a very special experience.
What did you get from that experience?
A lot. Wow. I think so one, some background. My dad got stage 4 colon cancer when I was around 13 years old. And that
Mm.
was a large reason why I wanted to do that cycling ride because I thought that I could it just felt like I was making a change to some degree, some impact on something that was affecting my family. And so what I got from it was I got a lot of definitely a lot of growth. Like being able to work with that many people on that long of a ride, I think that in itself was a very humbling experience in the fact that you realize that you're not the only person with issues. You're not the only one with problems in this world. You're not the only one that's like going through something. And having to work that in tandem with other people that also have like a spiritual journey of their own,
Mm.
I think being able to reconcile that with other people was definitely a very humbling experience. I think that coming out of that experience, I got a lot more spiritual growth out of it, knowing the fact that there were other people around me that were also going through this similar experience and I was not alone. And so, yeah, I think I got a lot of friendship out of it. I got a lot of internal development, a lot of spiritual insight, and yeah, no, it was really cool.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother,
Okay. And are you close with
3
your
years younger.
brother?
I would say we were not growing up,
Okay.
but we're getting better now. We are closer
And
now,
is
I would
is he in
say.
in Texas?
He
Yeah.
is, yeah. He's currently in Houston finishing up his bachelor's in biology,
Oh,
I
cool.
think, as well.
Next thing you know, he's in Seattle too.
Oh my god. I keep telling him, like, we have a place for him. Like, I would love for him to be up here,
Ha-
but no pressure
Does
at
he
all.
visit you often?
He's actually never visited Seattle, though.
Really? And how long have you lived in
Yeah.
Seattle?
Almost 4 years now. Yeah, almost 4 years.
What were some of the challenges you had growing up? Aside from financial restraints, you grew up in a Mexican community. How did you ever feel like you were part of a community growing up?
No, honestly, I felt a lot of isolation and feelings of intense loneliness growing up as a kid. I really didn't find a community until I got to college, honestly. And I remember often when I was a kid, I would eat lunch by myself. I would do things by myself. I would skate by myself. Like I was like definitely much so very alone. Of course, I have my very close
Uh-huh.
friends. I want to make sure they hear that when they listen to this podcast that I had really good friends, obviously, right? But I spent a lot of time by myself because I didn't really have any community to tap into as a child. So
Your close friends,
yeah,
were they at your school as well, or were they, family friends?
yeah, no, not family friends. There are people I met at high school. Yeah,
Mhm. Did you ever voice that to your brother or your parents about how you felt growing up?
no,
No?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I guess I didn't know how to articulate that as a child. I don't think that was ever a thing that I knew how to talk about,
Mhm.
honestly. So I kept it to myself.
Yeah. And I think in our community, we don't really talk about sadness either. It's sort of like just be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal," because we're just so busy just trying to survive, basically. What did your parents do, or what do they do now?
Yeah. So growing up, my father was a
Uh-huh.
lawyer before he got cancer, and my mother worked as a medical technician on medical tools used by medical professionals. And then eventually they left their jobs to open up a donut
Mhm.
shop in Houston. But once my father got cancer, obviously I had to stop working, and my mother went back to her job as a medical tool technician,
Okay.
which is what is currently the situation now.
Okay. So I understand now because it sounded like you were, your family sounded like they had enough money. That's why I wanted to probe a bit more because you mentioned that financially, it wasn't always available for you to pursue what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Uh, how did you find your community now?
Now, okay, let's see.
Because
When
it
I
sounds
moved
like,
to Seattle,
sorry, it sounds like
this was
you have a good community with the book club. And based on
yeah,
your Instagram,
yeah.
I know Instagram's not real life, but it looks like you're very social now too. So how did you find a community?
Yeah, so when I first moved to Seattle, it was kind of a struggle, to be
Mhm,
honest. I was trying out a lot of different things that I thought would fit me. And I do think the one thing that was consistent and stuck throughout all of that was the Seattle Chinatown International District and the Khmer American community in Seattle. I made it a point to try and find people within my cultural upbringing as Khmer Americans in my generation. And I think that specifically was what led me into a more active and involved presence within the Seattle Chinatown International District community. And so I think through things like volunteering, um, continually coming to the bookstore and starting my own book club, I think that in itself has brought people that share these same cultural values and morals and mindset that led to where I am today. And I can be more thankful for that.
oh, you know what? I forgot to ask you, do your parents visit?
No, they haven't visited me in Seattle once. It's been hard. Yeah,
Oh,
they have to stay in Houston.
is it because of your dad's health? They have to stay there?
Yeah, yeah. His oncologist is in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he wants to stay there. Kind of a side note, I have been trying to find an oncologist in Seattle for him to, I guess, transfer to. I'm not very well versed in what happens in the medical field, but yeah, for now they have to stay in Houston for that reason. So
Okay.
I go to Houston more often.
Did you grow up speaking Khmer?
I think a little
Mm-hmm.
bit up until I was 8 or 9, and then it
Yeah.
stopped. For a multitude of reasons. I think that my parents like got really busy with other things, so they couldn't upkeep that Khmer conversation with me at home.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, I didn't have a lot of Khmer friends growing up,
Mm-hmm.
so I think what happened was it just yeah, the cultural disconnect happened very early,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate.
I mean, it's great you're making an effort to reconnect with your heritage now. Did you ever talk to your parents about their experience in Cambodia?
There were very vague and brief moments. I've been very careful about that
Mhm.
because I am worried about, I guess, awakening some kind of deep hidden trauma they may be too anxious to talk about.
Mhm.
But they've told me stories for sure. I know about their journey. I know about the most impactful things they went through when they were going through that, but I've never actually sat down and asked them to fully describe that experience to me in fear of awakening some kind of a trauma that they may have buried away
Mhm.
since coming to the United States.
Mhm.
But it's definitely on my things of interest whenever we are ready to sit down about and talk about
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I have 12 years or 12, I don't 12. Yes, 12. No, 14 years. I think I'm 14 years older than you. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
only get little tidbits of um information from my parents every now and then. I don't get like a full sit down story from beginning to end. So I have to put the pieces together. And I am like you. I fear that there could be things that I'm not ready to hear.
Yeah.
or that they don't want to revisit. So yeah, I definitely I
Mm.
don't know how to approach that. I want to learn more about like who shaped you, who inspired you growing up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think my father largely shaped me growing up. A lot of who I am today actually is what I've learned from him. And another huge parental figure in my life was my mixed martial arts coach when I was a teenager.
Hmm.
His name is Jeremy Mahon. I think between going to school and going to the gym, it gave me a lot of confidence learning from him as a mentor. And so when my dad was going through his cancer treatments, I would go to the MMA gym, and my coach, Jeremy Mahon, he would be the one to kind of like fulfill that parental figure when that was kind of a gap in my formative years as a teenager. And so I think that was another huge influence in who I became today as a man.
How did you get into books?
I've always loved reading.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you how that happened. I think naturally when I was like 5 or 6, I just kept reading and reading and reading. And honestly, if we are going to be introspective about it, I think it's because of how lonely I
Hmm.
was. I think that I found books as an escape into worlds that I didn't have access to. Um, I feel like when I was a kid, I was seeking some kind of connection to someone else. I think finding that connection and reading in the author's words, I think that filled the void of having that lack of community that I was missing for so long. And so I think that is what got me into books
Oh,
growing up, honestly.
so that's actually a great segue into Mam's bookstore. How did you get involved with that?
Let's see. So, Mam's bookstore opened 1 year
Hmm.
ago in September 2023. And I had gone to the opening of it and met Soka there, actually. And so I thought the idea of a Khmer American bookstore was so lovely that I just kept coming back more and more. And eventually, Soka and I just became very good friends. And that's where we are today.
You mentioned that Ahsoka and Mam's bookstore plays an integral role in how you look at life right now, like your place in life right now. What do you mean by that? Can you expand on it?
Yeah, so Soka is also a fellow Khmer
Hmm.
American that is not too far from my age as well. He's only slightly older. And I think having his presence in my life has had me a lot more actively thoughtful about my Khmer American identity. Along with his bookstore, I see his mother and father a lot at the bookstore, and they're always talking to me in Khmer as well. So
Aw.
I'm learning, yeah, I'm learning the language too. And yeah, I think that on top of Mam's giving me the space to have this book club with the store, I've been a lot more engaged with my Khmer American identity. And so that's like how Soka has left an impact on me by far.
And it looked like you are exploring it in with some writing, because in one of your Instagram posts, you made an announcement about your zine series. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was largely impacted by Soka and his bookstore, and being more introspective about my American identity, I kind of wanted to write about
Hmm.
it. And the zine also features pictures that my mom and dad had as Khmer Americans, and even in Cambodia, they have pictures of them as children as well. So I put that all together, and it's an ongoing series that I'm putting out whenever I
Oh,
can.
very cool. Are you going to put that into a book eventually and publish it? Yeah. Very
I would
cool.
love to. I would really love to. Yeah, over time.
Very cool. Um, who inspires you now?
A lot of people inspire me. I find a lot of inspiration from my peers,
Mhm.
to be
Mhm.
honest. I think the my American friends I've made in Seattle and throughout the country, honestly, those are my inspirations. I think seeing what my friends are doing and what impact they're making on the current Asian American state in the United States, it's very inspiring. I wish I could name every single friend that inspires me, but I do want to say that I think my generation and the generation coming after me are doing incredible things,
Mhm.
and that's my biggest inspiration. Yeah, I think that my friends in California, Washington, New York City, Massachusetts, Texas, everywhere, like I see what we're all
Uh-huh.
doing, and I think that's what's giving me a lot of fire to really make an impact for everybody.
So in relation to your Khmer heritage, possibly a book, is there anything else in the works for you or that you want to do to contribute to that?
Hmm. As far as like making a positive impact for Khmer Americans, I have always felt a passion for providing a resource that I never got. And so
Mhm.
education was a big one we had talked about earlier in this conversation. And this is a very idealistic vision, but my dream is to one day open up a nonprofit that supports young Khmer Americans and low income communities, and any community, honestly, it doesn't have to be low income, that wants access to educational resources like textbooks or, I don't know, coding boot camps or something that I never had growing up.
Mhm.
And I would love to have that as a accessibility tool for yeah, young Khmer Americans. But that's a far off vision. I would love to start a nonprofit
You
for
know,
sure.
no, you should connect with Marfine Chan because he does something similar. Not in
Oh,
relation
really?
to education, but he does do not. He's a executive director for a nonprofit out in Portland,
Oh,
not Portland, Maine, Portland. Or sorry, not at Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine. So,
okay.
yeah, he helps the Cambodian community there with his nonprofit. Maybe that's someone you can
Incredible.
connect with. I'm not sure if you're already connected with him on Instagram, but
I don't think so. No, I'll definitely
yeah,
have to look into
he
this. Thank
yeah,
you.
he was my second guest on the podcast. But yeah, he does
Oh my
something not too far off from your vision there. But yeah, his thing is
gosh.
like dream big, and there's nothing that you can lose. So that definitely seems achievable for me because it's been done. If you know if it's been done, then you could do it too, right?
Yeah, no,
That's a
absolutely. I'll
fantastic dream
definitely
to
look into
have.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to talk about your childhood a bit more. I'm trying to get like the full version. What were you doing outside of school hours then if, you didn't have like a community to sort of connect with?
Yeah, so when I was in school, I was very active and involved in mixed martial arts. So Muay Thai,
Right.
Jiu-Jitsu,
Mhm.
boxing. That was my outlet for all of my frustrations as a teenager and child. Um, yeah, and that kind of ties back to how that led to my formative years as a teenager, learning from my coach, learning how to control my emotions and having a positive outlet for everything that was going on in my life at the time. So when I was in school, I was doing jujitsu and Muay Thai,
Mhm.
honestly. Yeah, that was my teenage years.
So how do you like Seattle? It's your home now.
I do love Seattle. It was hard to love at first, but after finding my community here, I truly will ride or die for Seattle.
Aw.
Yeah, no, I love it here. I can't imagine living anywhere else right now.
Yeah, as an active person, it's a great place in the country to be. It's beautiful too, and
Absolutely.
not I mean, the weather's not always the greatest, but it's definitely bearable in terms of,
You
winter
learn to love
weather.
it, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know very similar to Vancouver in terms of, gray skies for 75% of the year, but the beauty makes up for it.
It does, it really does.
I wanted to go to your quote here. Advice you'd give to your younger self. So you're still very young. But I'm assuming that you're talking to your teenager self here, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I'm going to quote you. I spent so much time chasing and chasing after what I thought was right for me. I never considered it instead to build what was right for me. And what I mean is that I spent such a long time looking toward other people to define what I thought I valued that I never stopped to consider what I wanted to make out of myself and for myself. There's a quote I really love. Don't waste your time chasing butterflies. Mend your garden and the butterflies will come, by Mario Quintana. Excuse me. And that's a quote I hold in very high regard in my current age. I would tell my younger self that. Can you paint a picture for me? You were valuing what society was valuing. When did you discover that I need to look within me rather than relying on someone else or society?
This is actually a fairly recent introspection of mine in the last 2 or 3 years or so. Yeah, for most of my life, I have always looked to other people to tell me what was good and what was bad because I didn't know what was good and what was bad for myself. And that came in the form of morals, social activities, what's fun, who I should hang out with, and what have you. I didn't really have a strong sense of self until the last 2 or 3 years when I really started diving into my Khmer American identity, to be honest. And so I said that quote because I think that I was always going to other people's gardens to look at their flowers when I never tried to grow my own flowers, you know? And that really didn't strike me as a very hard hitting point until I became more acutely aware of how I wanted to have my presence in the Khmer American community, you know? I think of my younger self and the struggles that I went through, and I was like, if I was 16 again and I had to look at my 28-year-old self, what would I have wanted him to see? Right? I would have wanted him to see a Khmer American man that's making his own way, that's helping others, supporting his community, and not taking from others, but rather giving, right? Like, if nobody else has flowers, I have a garden that I can give them flowers and that they can plant their own garden with, right? And it's that thought process, that's what occurred to me when I started taking my Khmer American identity a lot more seriously and really thinking about how I want my presence to impact our communities and what we are doing moving forward. So yeah, that was my thought process when I gave you that quote.
Kudos to you um, for coming to that and realizing that you don't have to live to other people's expectations to be happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I speak a lot of mentorship and how I never really had a mentor growing up or even now. You sound like you would be a great mentor. Are you open to, people reaching out to you
yeah, of
to,
course. I'm always open to that.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, even if it relates to your career as a programmer, but also just being Khmer American in general. Where can people connect with you? Do you prefer that they connect with you on Instagram or LinkedIn?
Instagram, yeah, Instagram is a really good place, and I'll always take a LinkedIn connection as well.
Okay.
I think those are two really good platforms to connect with me on.
Hmm. Can we talk about your military time? What
Yeah.
brought you there? Because I think you mentioned that uh, you needed discipline, and it provided that.
Yeah, I think most of my early 20s and teenage years I was lacking a lot of I guess discipline is one word to say it, and a lot of self-control. I needed to get it together. I was very scatterbrained and all over the place,
Mm,
honestly. And so graduating UT Austin, I had my bachelor's, you know, I was coming off of like probably the funnest 4 years of my life in college, and I didn't have a lot to show for it at the end of it, which was unfortunate. I think my professional skill set was lacking,
mm,
and I didn't really have a direction to go in because med school was slowly becoming more and more out of the picture. And my coach that said talked about earlier, my boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu coach, he was a former Marine veteran, and his experience in the military about how it shaped him to be a more like grounded person, that was always in the back of my mind. And so for the first 4 months of leaving college, I was trying to figure it out. And eventually I came to the conclusion I probably need something that's going to force me to ground myself and be more professionally directed. And yeah, the military landed in my lap, and I thought, okay, let's do it and see what happens. And it worked out. It worked out, honestly.
You mentioned that I think it was in your resume that you were deployed 3 times. I'm just wondering, in
Yeah.
terms of your mental health, like what were you ever concerned that you would do and see things that would affect you? just because, your
Yeah,
parents came from a place of war and now you're in the military and, military war. So it's like,
yeah.
was that ever a concern for you?
That's a very fair question, and I would say yes, that's very much so a concern of mine. I will say the top priority for me was providing for my family. Um, yeah, financially, that was a very comfortable time for me to send money to my parents and support them. And to be honest, when I was in the military, I was very inquisitive and reflective about, you know, the situation that you were talking about. Like, what if I am like in a war zone or if I'm like in a firefight? Like, how is that going to affect me? And ultimately, there's a whole other moral conversation that can be had about this that, it could take forever to like kind of like hear me ramble and ramble about it, but ultimately, like, I think I was willing to put my mental health aside for my mom and dad. Like, that's just the reality of it, honestly. And that's how I've always felt, to be honest. Just kind of like mentally numbing myself so that my mom and dad could have a better life wherever they are. Outside of the military, that's a thing too. I've always felt that way about my parents, and even right now, I know I could give them my entire paycheck and I'd be like, that's fine.
Oh,
So yeah, I think that relating back to your question, yeah, the mental health aspect was always, always a concern of mine, but ultimately it was for my family. So it was something I was able to put aside for a bit.
did you experience anything like that?
No,
Okay.
thankfully, no.
Okay.
Yeah, thankfully, my time in the military was a very stable
Mhm.
one with not a lot of craziness, for lack of a better word. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it was fine.
Okay. Um, what do you do for fun now? You do a lot of running, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of running to stay fit. I read a lot,
Yeah.
as we can probably naturally infer. I like to write. I like to play music. I play in a band with yeah, with my girlfriend as a vocalist, and I'm a drummer,
Very
and I
cool.
play guitar on the side.
Do
Yeah,
you put
yeah.
some, like, Cambodian influence into it, or are you just vibing?
Um, we want
Uh-huh.
to. Like, I think the idea of incorporating our Asian American identities into this band is very much so like a cool thing to us. I know my girlfriend's
Uh-huh.
Vietnamese and I'm Cambodian, so whenever we play live shows, we always have our flags up, and and if we can somehow incorporate that into our music, whether it's like the actual music itself or the merch design
Mhm.
or aesthetic, like that's definitely something we've talked about a lot, and we're looking to do.
Do you and your girlfriend talk about, is she from Seattle as well?
Oh yeah, she was born
Born
and
and
raised
raised here?
here.
Yeah. So do you guys talk about, like, just the similarities in your parents' experiences or anything? Or is that sort of something that you don't talk about?
We do talk about similar experiences actually. She's also very cognizant and acutely aware of her Vietnamese American identity, and that's something that holds us together very well as as a couple. Honestly, we both care a lot about our Asian American experience and exploring our parents' histories and what have you. And so often the way that we have our conversations relates back to culture, and yeah, we're very like thoughtful of each other's parents' experiences and how it relates to us and each other.
You must read a lot of books by Asian Americans in general then too.
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
you have a couple of your favorite books that you can recommend to listeners here? And I'll link them in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. My gosh, let me rack my brain. So the first thing that comes to mind that details the Khmer American experience very well is Afterparties
Oh yeah.
by Anthony
Uh-huh.
Veasna So. Yeah, yeah. I think that book in particular, at least for people that are my age and younger, it really does kind of like highlight the experience of what it's like to grow up as a Khmer American. That's kind of like almost second generation,
Mhm.
honestly. Um, yeah, that's a great book. The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen, incredible book about a Vietnamese. Def- how do I say this? So it's set during the Vietnam War,
Mhm.
and it follows the story of a Vietnamese spy that's in America after the Vietnam War, still feeding intelligence to the Communist Party. And the book explores themes of identity, what it means to be caught between America and Vietnam, and just about the Vietnam War in general. I thought that was a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give one more, two more
Mm-hmm.
actually. So a third one I really liked is "Stay True" by Hua Hsu. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. It's a memoir by a Taiwanese American
Mm-hmm.
who grew up in California, and I think that also gave a lot of really good insight on Asian American identity. And honestly, I think "Minor Feelings" by Kathy Park Hong was a really good one too. I think Kathy Park Hong does a really good job at making us confront what it means to be Asian American in the sense of politics and what that means in a political sense beyond just the culture. So I think those four books have been very formative to me as a reader in my Asian American experience.
You mentioned something in your summary of minor feelings that reminded me of the title of your zine. What is it again? Jungle
Oh yeah,
Asia?
Jungle
Yeah.
Asian. Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me why you called your zine Jungle Asian?
The biggest thing is reclamation of the slur used against us. I think that there's nothing wrong with having darker skin as an Asian, which is like an insane idea to say out loud, but there are people that generally
Hmm.
think, oh, if you're darker skinned Asian, you're lesser. Like
Hmm.
you're not as you're not as, I guess, quote unquote, much of Asian as I am because I'm like pale white or whatever they want to say. And so Jungle Asian for me was like, well, I am a Jungle Asian. I'm proud of that. Like it's nothing crazy. Like if like someone called me a Jungle Asian, I'd be like, yeah, and it's freaking cool. You know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily like I get that it's supposed to be derogatory and a slur,
Hmm.
but to me it's simply not. And I want our people who are struggling with colorism to realize that it's not a bad thing to have darker skin at all. It means that, you spend outside in time in the sun. It means that you're active. It means that your people before you have worked hard to get you to where you are, and you should be very proud of that. And I think that the word jungle Asian to me, my dad was very intrigued by it, by the way. He said, "Huh, jungle Asian. Huh, That's are you sure people are not going to be upset about that?"
Uh-huh.
And I thought, yeah, maybe some people will be, but I think that when you understand that this is our way of reclaiming something that's used as an offense towards us, then it's like, I think that it's something that becomes less and less impactful as you grow more and more proud of
Yeah.
and that's why I call my zine Jungle
Oh.
Asian.
I didn't hear that because in Canada we have a smaller Cambodian community. Like it's nothing like Long
Mm.
Beach. I imagine Seattle to be quite large as well compared to the communities that we have here in Canada. I mean, I think Toronto, the Greater Toronto area would be our biggest Cambodian community slash Asian in general. But growing up, because I knew, Cambodians, we come in all shades as well. But I think that a lot of people don't realize that. So I was never really called that because I passed as like my skin is lighter too. Um, but yes, maybe if I had darker skin, I would have come across that at a younger age. But
Yeah,
I didn't really hear that until COVID hit. Just like it's insane to me, and
it is. Yeah, no, I don't get it, but it is a thing, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Um, I want to ask you one more question. Actually, two more. So you
Okay.
mentioned nonprofit. Was there anything else? Like, what other dreams do you have? Like, that's a big dream too. But what other dreams do you have? What do you want to accomplish? Say, like in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh my gosh, 5 to 10 years. Okay. Wow.
Like, there's a book.
I
There's a
was,
nonprofit.
yeah.
Is what else do you dream of? I get so excited when I hear
Yeah.
other people's dreams.
Yeah, yeah. So, my gosh. So, I think a dream I've always talked about, even when I was in college, was I would have loved to open up a boxing gym.
Mm,
Anywhere with low income children so that they have a place to come and let their outlet and aggression out and have a positive area to express how they feel. Um, because that was me as a teenager, right? Like I didn't have anywhere to go to express how angry I was with everything, so I turned to boxing and jujitsu and Muay Thai, and that I think that helped me really process my emotions in a healthy way. And so yeah, my dream has always been to open up a boxing gym for for anybody. It doesn't have to be low income
Hmm.
kids again, but the primary target audience is for low income kids and whatever families are experiencing turmoil that need a place to go to. um
And you can
Man,
have your
opening up a
book club meetings there too.
yeah. Yeah, we'll have like, 1 hour of sparring and then we'll have books right after. But yeah, that's always been a recurring dream of mine. Obviously to write a
Hmm.
book. Um, that nonprofit is great. I see a lot of people my age traveling to Cambodia and staying there for a few years, and that's a dream too. I don't
Wow.
think that's very realistic
Uh-huh.
with where I'm at right now in life, but if I could like make that dream happen where I stay in Cambodia for at least half a year, like six
Uh-huh.
months, and really immerse myself in the culture, I think that would be absolutely incredible and something I would love to happen one day, which maybe could happen in the next 10 years.
My last guest, Soka as well, but female. She grew up in France. Yeah, she
Oh.
grew up in France and she's relocated to Cambodia, and she was a lawyer in France. But yeah, she was saying at the end of the podcast episode that if you have technical skills, well, if you have skills in general, like Cambodia needs you, and I think that you're the type of person that Cambodia needs right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, my last guest was just talking about that, and then there's you telling me now that you want to make that happen, and it just seems like it's very serendipitous. Like, you need to go. It's a perfect time.
No, I absolutely agree. And you're right. I feel like, it's very easy for me to get caught up in how to impact the Khmer American community, which is good,
Mhm.
right? But I think at a larger vision, if I can make a positive impact for Cambodia in Cambodia, like I would love that as well. That's the motherland,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the cultural connection goes beyond America, but it's very easy for my scope to be so narrowed to just my immediate country. But yeah, I think making a positive impact in Cambodia, whatever that looks like, that's a huge dream of mine
Mhm.
too.
Aw, that's an awesome one to have and definitely something attainable, especially in your position right now when you don't have kids, you're young, right? No health issues, and you've got, like, all this to offer, and they're looking for someone like you. So
Thank
it's a
you.
win-win, right? I mean, you can connect with her, and then there's also someone that I spoke with, Gao. He is in Serbia.
Gal.
Yeah, he's in Serbia, but he's going to relocate to Valencia, Spain. But he does a lot of work in Cambodia as well. Yeah,
Mm,
so I'm not going to publish his episode until the new year, but you'll find out more about what he's up to there. But yeah, he says the same thing. They both say Cambodia is growing so fast, but we don't have enough people to help make it happen even faster.
yeah.
Yeah, or at the
Well,
appropriate pace. I think we're just going to wrap up soon. But
okay.
before we do, I wanted to make sure that you have the opportunity to share what one or two things that you want listeners to take away from your story.
One or two things. I think that the biggest thing is that it is possible to make an impact no matter what your background is, as if you have the heart for it and you have the passion, desire, the fire to make an impact. I generally think anybody can do it given the circumstances, right? And that's speaking as someone who was a very lonely child, no financial means to get to where I am now, all kinds of factors that I can like say on and on that would have impeded me to get to where I'm at now. And the passion for community and empowering others and helping others and having a servant's heart, that led me to where I am and will continue to lead me to where I go. And I hope listeners take that and think, I don't need to be this hot shot, 6-figure salary, what have you person to make an impact in our communities, because I think just being a passionate individual is all you need in order to make something happen, whether it's for one person or 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And impact, no matter how big or small it is an impact. And I think that we can all do something for our community. I truly do think at the end of the day, we are who we are because of the people that we surround ourselves with and the people that we help. And I hope that whoever listens to this understands that community is whoever you want that to be. And you should, put some time into it. Yeah, and that's like my takeaway.
Mitchell, I think you will be doing amazing things. You're doing great things right now, but I envision you making an even bigger impact in the local community. But I see you doing big things, and I'm internationally too.
I hope so. Thank you.
Well, thank you for oh, you know what? I totally forgot. So is Mitchell your Khmer name? Like, is that your name? Or is that the name that you adopted?
That was the name I've always had. I
Okay.
need to ask my parents. Okay, I feel like I've asked my parents if I have a Khmer name. They just kind of shrugged and said, "No, you're Mitchell." Well, I should really know. That's a great question. I should ask if they've ever considered giving me a Khmer name because my brother's middle name is Rati,
Uh-huh.
which is I think supposedly Khmer, but my whole American government name is Mitchell Norris Keogh. So I feel like there's not a lot of cultural digging there, but I should absolutely ask my parents if they've ever considered me calling me something
Uh-huh.
a little bit more Khmer than Mitchell.
I think it's so cool that Mitchell essentially created the community he was seeking. This through his book club via Mam's Bookstore, which led him to really discover his identity as Khmer American. And it makes my heart sing to know that we've got so many young people in the diaspora acknowledging and celebrating our heritage and wanting to make a difference. As Mitchell says, making an impact starts with a desire. I look forward to celebrating more of your achievements, Mitchell, wherever your desires to make an impact take you. If you're interested in connecting with Mitchell, find him on Instagram or LinkedIn. Check out the show notes for the links. Bang paon, Khmer, some akun charan for listening to Khmer Voices. I love getting comments and feedback, so if you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment or leave a review if you're listening on Apple. And if you haven't yet, please submit a 5-star review for the show. We'll connect again in 2 weeks.